your coughs, and your sneezes.
Do you know that the index of your arm, this part, is actually a chemical hazard? There's so much snot goes there.
Where do you get this information?
No, because like all the snot goes there. It's actually a biohazard.
Where do you get this information?
It's made it up.
Yes. So when you start a made-up statement with "Did you know?" No, I didn't know that because you made it up.
Did you know that 9 plus 38?
Did you know that I can levitate, but only on February 30th? Of course you did.
Oh yeah, I can walk on
Very
water.
coincidence, still.
I'm not even joking. I can walk on water.
I'm not joking. Let's do math.
No,
No.
Mr. Hudson. I have a very, it's actually a funny one.
What's that?
So, I have a cousin who was just born like a few months ago in February.
Okay.
Her name is Hunter.
Okay.
This Hunter's birthday is February 27th.
Okay.
My cousin Hunter's birthday is also February 27th.
You know what the odds of that happening are?
Pretty low, but not that low.
1 in 365. But if we look at when the pregnancy inception happened, not that rare.
Also,
It was probably within about 2 weeks of a chance of like when the birth would happen.
I mean, yeah, on the same day, but like.
So, like, yeah, you had like a 1 in 14 chance probably. Like, it was. So when people are like, oh my gosh, they stole my birthday, it's like, I mean,
And
when,
your name.
when
Like,
Luke,
the name.
well, okay, that's when Luke was born, he almost stole my birthday.
That's like 1 in 365,000.
So,
A lot of people-
What? That's
no,
like
if
1
we're
in
talking
150.
day, like date, it's
And
only
name.
365 dates. Oh, okay, so Hunter's a popular name right now. Alright, so we're at a water balloon launching contest. I would love to get through this lesson so we can spend a little bit of time on your practice. So, we have different people launching different water balloons using their catapults. Now, if we end up with time at the end of the year, this is something that we could try to do, like actually physically. We would need to make some catapults first, or like some launcher systems. So, Newton High School, right, very creative, holds a water balloon contest every year, and of course, they're doing it to track some parabolas. So, and one of Newton's laws essentially was like, what goes up comes down. So, like, that's why they do the water balloon contest. So this year, you are the judge, and you must decide which contestants win the prizes for longest distance and highest launch. Now, longest distance, that's not that hard to figure out, right? You can walk it, just like shot put, whatever. But highest launch, or we could, what, Tim the Toolman Taylor? Whatever he does.
No one knows who that is.
Yeah, well, I'm old. So. Fortunately, you have a computer that's going to track your data. So, Maggie,
Nanimals.
anyone get it?
No.
Oh, magnanimous. So, you are correct. You are correct. So, Maggie, she runs down and places her slingshot at the 3-yard line. And Maggie's launch happens. The computer reports the balloon traveled along the parabola represented by the equation negative x squared plus 17x minus 42. So then, get it? Generous.
Oh my
Generous
God.
goes, and
Impeccable.
Jen runs down the field, places her slingshot at the goal line, and releases the balloon. It doesn't matter where they start. Like, we're going to calculate these things. The computer reports the path of Jen's water balloon in the graph at the right. So here's Jen. Then,
She watched that thing.
impeccable.
No, they named their child Imp. Like a goblin.
Impeccable launches their balloon, and there's a roar from the crowd, and then you realize it's because that balloon is landing straight on you.
That's a big
And splashes all over your computer, and now some computers these days are starting to become waterproof, but that one was not. The last thing you see flash on the screen is this data set. So finally, the announcer calls for altruistic. With your computer broken, you decide to do this manually. So Al releases the balloon from the 10-yard line. It lands at the 16-yard line, and based on the previous launches, you are guessing that Al's balloon went to a height of 27 yards.
Yeah, we're done.
So, on your resource page, what we're going to do is try to sketch, doesn't have to be perfect, we're going to try to sketch, a graph for each of these contestants. Then, we need to be able to determine who had the longest distance from launch to landing, and who had the highest launch. Obviously, they're all operating off the same ground. So, if you would like to use a calculator, or Desmos, I believe there's some computers available to us. We do, in the lesson, there's a Desmos, like, there's this set up, and then we can plug in the parabolas, and it's already got your x and your y axis kind of labeled. So if you want to use that, you can. But we, then we'll do more with this. So your first job is just graph everybody's launches on your resource page.
What does CPM stand for?
Believe it's called College Preparatory Mathematics.
Oh,
I see.
That sounds scary.
yeah.
Or it stands for Cool People Math.
Yeah. Crazy people, not crazy.
That sounds better, actually. I like that.
So especially if you didn't have a book, I guess I will go back up to, we have this equation, then we have the parabola shown to us, then we have Impeccable's data table. So actually, we could go ahead and copy down IMP's costs right now, as you're waiting for Chromebooks to load or whatever. So this table right below here, we should copy that down for IMP, for his X and his Y. So especially if you don't have a book, you want to look up here and get this table copied down. We're going to, but like you can check it by using technology. So we're going to sketch them on our paper, but we can use tech to help us do it. Now we could also just input-output, right? If I input 1, what's the value? If I input 2, what's the value?
I learned it.
He did. No, I'm talking about it. No, they're not different. No, basically that's not baseball. I've seen so many election days. I know, literally Google just go vote.
It's an election day.
Why is this an important election? It's obviously not presidential, but why is it important?
Because once the election is over, then all the 22nd months come out.
I know!
Except for them.
So, you guys are the most self-centered people I think I've ever met.
Yeah, we probably are. That's definitely true.
Yes.
But by that, I mean your generation. All you care about is YouTube ads. Guys, this is an important election because it's a midterm.
Yeah.
Every 2 years is midterm. Every 4 years is presidential. Right? The reason this is important is because if you disagree with what's going on from the president, this is your opportunity to change things. And once you're going to be 18 very soon and have the ability to vote. If you don't like what's happening, elect some people to get up in there and change stuff. So this election is going to have a bigger turnout than probably most midterm elections do. The line this morning was about as long as what it was when I went for the presidential election. This is the opportunity to make some change happen. Because it's not like there's an undo button for the people that now are like, oh, Trump isn't doing what I thought he was going to do. He's not sticking to his, whatever. There's no undo, right? There's only moving forward and changing what we can change.
Isn't he going for a fascist government?
So we're not in a government class, so I shouldn't even be going this far into it. But that's why you should care about today being election day. Not because, I agree with you, those election ads are annoying, but that doesn't matter as much as it is our opportunity to elect our officials.
I wanted to ask something.
Yes.
Too bad.
Never mind.
I was like,
Why did the right from the equation not
Yes.
fixed? And I
What
was like,
about
oh wait.
SM?
yeah, let's do the what's
What's
your
the equation?
negative x squared.
Yeah, but. Okay, I got Maggie.
Okay, I'm working on M. I already got Maggie, so I'm gonna work on generous. Someone work on generous. I'll work on M. I already got Maggie, so does everyone else.
I'll do Jen.
Okay, so you're doing Jen. That means you have to do Al, and you do N. I'll do input. You know if we could drop points on Desmos?
Could you
and
like
then-
have a textbook in class maybe?
How?
Yes.
Wait, you're doing Al, right?
Considering this happens day after day after day, where I'm trying to set something up and then you're like, wait, go back.
No.
She's doing Jen.
No.
I'm doing M.
See, look.
I already
It's
wrote
M.
down. I wrote down
It's
M's thing.
N.
Oh.
That's N.
Okay, I wrote it on.
So you're doing M?
Yeah.
Okay, so she's doing it, then me and you will do Al. Okay, let me pull that up. So how do you? Well, Hunter, how do you put in the table?
If you go to use the E tool, you want to click the arrow
Oh.
to open up their info. This is already set up really well, so if you're starting from a brand new Desmos, you're probably trying too hard. They've already scaled these axes how we want to work well
Wait, where did you get that?
in the E tool, which I instructed, you just weren't paying attention, right here in this problem, the 5/16 student E tool.
Oh, yeah, I got that.
Then when you click the drop down arrows, you can either put in a data table or you can put in an equation. If you put in the equation, we have to turn it on.
Okay.
So for Jen, which I'm going to put up on the TV, we know a couple points.
What's the equation? It won't grab
Are we
anything.
doing Jen or Al?
We're doing Al.
Where are you freaking well?
This one can be black.
So, let's do that.
I'll just do it.
And then you can go to blue.
Oh, where?
No, you can just label it.
So
All
negative
releases from the
square.
10-yard line. Height and air go to 27. I want to be able to like graph points.
What's the equation of negative?
Negative x squared.
Mr. Hudson.
Yeah.
You know, there's a way like I could graph something on here, like
minus
put
42.
points in.
It's a great question.
So if you do that.
So in Jen, like what I got up here is these 3 points.
We're doing Al.
Whoa.
Okay.
And with
So I
Al,
go
it
down
tells
to
you where it
Al.
started, where it finished.
Okay. So it should be like that.
Yeah, it said, y equals negative x squared.
So he releases from 10 and 0.
Which one is this again?
Wait, if it reaches from 10, then is the x-intercept going to be 10? And 16?
So we know our x-intercepts.
I'll do.
Yeah, 10, 16.
Oh, you're in.
Bless you.
No, let's do this one.
So, and it's
I'm going
it's going to be 10 and 16. But I want to be able to like say something.
So are you doing Maggie as well
What?
at the moment?
I'm doing whatever the heck I can.
Okay. Maggie's the first.
What the? Okay.
So, y equals 0, y is 0, and 10, and x is 10, and y is 0.
Maggie
I got
at the
16.
moment.
Yeah. Wait, I need to put.
Yeah, but I can't, I want to,
What's like the
We need more pieces of information.
and the highest it
Start
goes
up here.
is
27 yards.
27 yards in the middle. What's in the middle of 10, 16?
Up here.
Oh, it's like 10,
Alright, well, it's
13
faster for
plus
us.
16, 13.
Wait, you have to put
No,
this in the.
Yeah, 13. So, we know another point at 13 at the y. 13, 27. But it doesn't graph anything.
13 is x, y is 27.
So
Yes.
negative x squared. So
Probably.
You know you have to turn on your points, right?
16.
Wait, what?
Here.
Oh, click that little
How
circle
does
thing.
Maggie's get? Oh, she starts at
Yeah, that, see, look at the board, that little circle.
Yeah, I clicked it. But like, how do we turn this into that? Like into a line? I don't know.
So, owl. And we also have a height of 27. Right? So don't I also have this and that?
Yeah.
This other orange point right here, right in between its max point reaches 27?
Yeah. We did that and that was.
So, I mean, you can at least sketch them, right? If we're talking about doing this on our resource page.
Oh yeah.
I'll do odd numbers, you do even.
I did Gen.
I don't have gems.
So. Okay, that's a very good sketch. Very good sketch. Very good sketch.
Yeah, you're good up to what you should.
114, 224.
No, stop on that.
Yes. 10, 432, 530, 624, 714, 80. She went full 8 yards.
Here's the high copy and paste that equation. Wait, how do you get the equation? CPM. They have an ebook, you know that, right?
So, with the over teaching that I've been doing,
Please no.
we should already know a little bit about how to manage this. If I look at Owl, I've got his x-intercepts and his height, right? Because that's where my computer broke. So I've got my x-intercepts and I've got my height. What could I do with my x-intercepts if the question that I've heard being asked is how do I figure out an equation for this?
Oh, you told us that yesterday.
I know, that's why I'm asking today.
It's like you combine,
What do you mean?
add them together.
How do I use what I know? How do these zeros factor into a quadratic? Jacob?
They're, the answer when x equals 0, where it is when one of the parts cancel out. I can't remember what they're called.
So if y equals 0 when x is 10, then that means there must be a part of my equation that is x minus 10.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Right? Because when x is 10, y is 0. Right? Okay, sweet. And if that was all I knew, that'd be fine. But I know more. When x is 16, that's also a point where my equation becomes 0. And I know multiplying, if either of these is 0, the whole thing is 0. So if I try to write this out, I get x squared minus 26x.
It's negative x squared. It's negative x squared.
No, it's not. Not based off what I have. Hang on. Positive 160. So if I go to graph this, who are we doing? We're doing owl right now, I think. So x, pull up the keyboard for my square, minus 26x plus 160.
Nowhere. Yeah, I got it.
So, Nidden tells me, wait, Mr. Odds, you need to put a negative here. But how would that impact everything over here? Like, how do I make that happen? Do I just make one of my x's negative? But that'd be true for my zeros. Right? If I make one of my x's negative, then I'd either have to make one of these values positive. Like if I make this negative x, I'd have to make this plus 10. Alright, so I could try that. Or what if I put a negative up front?
It actually will work.
Everything would flip, right?
Yeah.
So what if I try that? Negative x squared, this would be positive or plus, and this would be negative? Well, kind of. Close.
That's what it is, right?
That's not, I need to be up here.
Oh, that's depressing.
Bring it up. 13 9.
How?
Change the one.
What if I just add another number out here? Oh,
I changed that. Change one.
change 160?
I'll just
Put like
It
a
won't
40
match
something.
the bottom.
Look, put at 30.
it won't match up
Put
with
it
the bottom.
140.
Yeah.
Oh no. Damn it. It didn't work.
It's not right at all.
Heck it, you gosh. So you need to change the
X value.
yeah, like what X is. You need to
Make
change
the
the
parabola
condition of X.
Change the factor.
I need to make the parabola thinner. Now negative 2x, that apparently broke it.
Oh no, wait, it's gonna be like all the way down.
Oh,
Oh.
oh,
Wait, it looks like the right shape.
oh.
Don't just call me out.
Very good, but you know,
So we're close.
saying you're not
Right, we got the right zeros, but we are not high enough up.
Oh, I found oh yeah. I found I found Jen's
I found all of the
negative
graphs.
2x squared plus 16x.
I found all of the graphs and it aren't drawn very well.
So you said Jen is negative 2x squared plus 16. How'd you get there?
Guessing and checking.
Oh, guess check.
Ah, classic strategy.
I found out
That
that
was the strat.
I found out that if you
Wait, what?
No.
if you divide the like regular x
Yeah, that's not right.
Okay.
squared.
Wait, what did you get?
Okay. If you divide by 2, you can find out how far the midpoint is.
Divide by 2. You divide what by
Can I
2?
come up first?
Yeah, for sure.
So, like,
Always.
So we have the 16x. If you divide that by 2, you get 8. Or no 8.
Yes, you do. 16 divided by 2 is 8.
I mean, yeah, I know you get 8, but never mind.
Wait, what?
Never mind.
Yeah.
You're gonna leave us just
Yeah.
wanting?
But I found it. It doesn't.
Wait, that doesn't work at
Don't
all.
worry about it.
That didn't work at all.
Oh, it was
We're not
20.
trying to get-
Well, guys,
we're not trying to
if
get
I
hard
go
at
to the top, if I go to the top,
What do you mean that doesn't work at all?
Wait, for which one?
I
are you trying
can't
to-
I put in all the
believe you
points
as
and then I found the equation that
8th
matches.
graders haven't gotten to this point yet. Does this matter?
What?
The equations.
and then
Yeah.
Do they?
No.
What are we trying to determine here?
the height. And
The highest height and the longest distance.
Jen got both. No, Jen got the longest. Jen got the highest, and Ed got the longest.
nope, Matt got one.
Yeah, but no, I was looking at the wrong one. Yeah, Mag like literally toppled him.
Maggie got
Yeah,
the
Maggie
longest
out-
or the highest?
Maggie got the longest. Jen got the
I'm
highest.
like super close.
So Maggie went from 0 to 8.
No,
No.
Or no, or is Maggie's green?
Maggie.
Maggie went from 3 to 14. So Maggie
Yes.
went 11.
Yes. No one else.
Now this is wrong, right? We said our orange parabola down here. This is actually wrong. We have screwed that up. So let's just leave that.
Al only went 6, which isn't bigger than 11.
Now wait, what about who is Imp? These black dots here. How do we know how far he went?
We have to finish it.
Oh, I finished it, and
Now wait, how do we finish it?
7:45 afterwards.
you just keep going.
What do you mean I just?
You can-
No, I don't know how to keep going.
Hudson,
Yeah,
line of
I did-
symmetry.
so-
I didn't. Say it again.
Line of symmetry. You just
The
draw it.
line of symmetry.
That's what I said. Just continue it.
You said just keep going. We need some
Yeah.
vocab.
That's
You
keep
keep
going.
So 1, 2, 3, 4,
You better
5.
keep swimming.
Another 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Just keep
Imp is
going.
gonna land here. How far is that then? Well, he went 10. Right, so he's short of that 11.
Yeah, see, Maggie completely overtopples her in every single way.
By 1.
Yeah, and height. Imp is useless.
Against the highest.
Alright, my smartboard is apparently broken. So
Why
you
do
said.
draw it like that?
Because I can.
But like, it's, no, but like.
Are you mad because you can't?
That's
Don't
okay.
hate
No,
because you
it's-
ain't, man.
See how like it shoots like that? But
Why
you
do you
draw
have your parabola set to the point?
Does it,
Because that's
so
how they
if
shoot.
I put that in the dead middle, it would be like on the blue line. I was trying to avoid the other things in the way. How far did we say that is for Maggie? Or whoever the green is?
11.
11. And then highest height here, yeah, it does come down to our blue line. Because we don't need the equations here. The only thing we needed here was being able to recognize that our vertex point here gives us the line of symmetry. Sorry, my smartboard's slightly off here. Which then can let me finish the parabola. And actually, I can finish every other point on the way down. That would be there. This would be over here.
That's it.
And that's it. Now the issue still comes down to how do we get to that function? Like we know points.
So we know the first one is negative x squared from spacing down for
Okay.
second one.
What would change? Like, what is it that we're struggling to figure out here when we're looking for like those functions?
I'm just gonna like the x and
The x or the x?
like the three things, right? Terms.
For like ABC, right? Like
Yeah,
the coefficients,
Mhm.
or really just the ABC? Because C is not really a coefficient, but A and B are.
Like you need to figure out x squared, but not bx or c.
So my challenge to you is how do we get there? Right? How do I find the parabola for my black dots here? How do I find the parabola for my orange dots here? That will actually fit it and be accurate. No, guess and check is gross.
I figured out a way to get it
Black
straight.
dots.
What are you thinking, Thomas?
Well, I don't really know how to say it.
Yeah, you want this screen back up or what?
You just take it and you basically
Green doesn't work. You gotta use a different pen.
mirror the other
Well, yeah, we finished it,
other side.
but how do we find the equation is what we're asking.
I didn't know that.
Smart.
I don't know.
So Thomas, this goes back to like you're not always paying attention. We already drew all those other dots that you're about to draw, and we already talked about our line of symmetry. Right? Based off the line of symmetry, we can finish these dots, but that doesn't help us get the equation.
Guess and check.
Wrong. No.
I think I know how to get it.
Guess and check.
Well, I mean, yes, but like I have a way of actually knowing.
Educated guess and check.
Yes, educated guess and check.
Jot down on your paper the locations of your x-intercepts and your vertex for each. For each.
Why? Okay, circle them. You said vertex point here, right?
Found it. Y equals negative
You
x
said
squared
vertex
plus
point.
14x minus 24.
X intercept and vertex point.
X-intercept and
For,
vertex points.
Found in.
Yeah.
They are.
So this is one day where I'm actually not going to overteach.
What is this?
Yay!
I'm going to leave you with the not knowing how to go from the point of our x-intercepts and our vertex to get to the equation. Now, there is a way that we can use that information.
I zoomed out accidentally. I want to zoom back in to test out like what each of these do.
So, real quick to make sure we cover what needs covered before I let you guys like challenge yourselves more and spend more time in the struggle. If we wanted to determine Maggie's balloon height at the 2-yard line. Now, Maggie launches from the goal line, right? I think Maggie launches from the goal. Runs down, places on the 3-yard. Ooh. So wait, Maggie launches. Okay. It's still is asking us Maggie over the 2-yard line of the field. How would we determine what her height was at the 2-yard line? What are our yard lines representing? Like if we go back to our graph, yeah, it's like what yard line you're on, right? So our x's are what yard line we're on. So if we plug in 2 to Maggie's flight equation, then -4 plus 34, so we're at 30, minus 40.
-12.
Her balloon's at -12.
Yeah. She went.
But that actually makes sense. Because if Maggie's balloon, which launches from 3, if we look at where it is at the 2, down here.
11.
Yeah.
No, it's 12.
12. These are by 2s.
Scale.
Oh.
Yeah, it changes as you zoom, so be careful. Scale changes as you zoom. So we can get like nonsense answers that make sense. Or you can't actually have your balloon at a height of -12. However, her balloon hadn't launched yet. On the 2-yard line, her balloon had not launched yet.
How did it start all at the origin?
Because it's CP.
So let's compare that actually, if we're going to talk about origin work. For our blue line here, Chris said he guessed and checked to get to the point of -2x² plus 16x.
I did.
And there's no C value because he intercepts at the origin. How could we use that to determine our prep? Well,
Wait, can I just say one thing?
sure.
So, I was messing around with what X does, and it actually doesn't change the width. It just changes where the vertex starts.
Yeah.
So, like, makes
You mean the A is what you're screwing around with?
no, the B. So, like, it's basically, if I accidentally change anything, if I just scroll up here and add another.
You know you can make B a slider, right? You
How?
literally make it B, like type in B, delete 10, type in B, add slider to B, click it. Then you can actually see where it moves. So scroll back down so you can see your parabola. Now your problem is the parabola that you've set up. You're in scales of thousands. You need to zoom in on
Oh,
your
that
parabola
would, yeah,
and
that makes sense.
rationalize what's actually happening. Hunter, what's up?
You don't have a constant. That's how you get it to start.
Ooh. Don't have a constant. That's why we're starting at the origin. I like it. Now, sorry, go ahead. This is x² minus 8x, right? Not what we need.
I got it.
Got what?
I got ounce.
How?
Guessing and checking.
Yeah. We need some sort of strategy.
It worked though. Say what it is.
So this 0.
Say know what it is.
Hold up. Stay with me for a minute. This 0. That's this, right? That first parentheses. Is this still a 0? Yeah. is this still 0 as a 0?
Negative 2x squared.
Now, here I have an advantage. I know what I'm looking for, right? Chris has already told me I'm looking to get negative 2x squared plus 16x, and if I apply a negative 2 into my multiplication, I can figure out that that's what this needs. But why? How do we get to the point of choosing that this is gonna happen?
What? The length of it is 8? Is it? I don't know.
Do we find a way swap it?
There is no slope. There's a common ratio. But
Well, there are slopes at individual points, which is
no,
weird to
'cause
think
you can
about
just go
too.
You
deeper.
have 2 minutes. Let's find the answer.
We have more than. Never mind.
We have 3 minutes.
Actually, no, we don't. You're
Well,
about
I
to-
think theory of class.
Who what? Hunter?
The computer's actually behind.
Yeah, they fixed the clocks. The
Wait,
Phoenix
what?
clock- Except for the gym clock. The gym clock doesn't sync up.
So we don't
But
have any
these
more
clock-
Phoenix time?
Not normally. On certain days, I think they get a little wonky, but
Oh.
there's Phoenix time should be real time. So wait, we know Green's equation. Stay with me for a minute. I technically had like 5 minutes, but I know I released you guys early and you're used to that.
You're gonna tell us?
Release you
Oh.
guys.
Oh
Did
my
you get
goodness.
it?
No,
Give
this is
her,
not
give
true.
her.
I read the book The Giver.
No, yeah.
Not in a very long time.
Yeah, and that
That's
means when
already-
you release someone, basically you're killing them.
Spoilers.
But that is
Yeah.
spoilers.
What a bully.
Spoiler.
Mr. Beck already read it during class.
Basically.
He's not really
No, I'm not. I'm from Mr. Hudson.
So-
But he's already read it.
Mr. Hudson.
It was like way back when. Now wait a minute. How do we get to the point? Shh, hey, stay with me. We want to look at one where we have the equation. We have negative x squared plus 17x minus 42. Sorry, that's written kind of sloppily. We know that from x minus 3 and x minus 14, or it's the opposite of that value.
Why are you doing minus?
Because it's got to be the opposite of
Oh.
the 0, right?
So
Because
if
if I
that's on the
plug
negative
in,
side, it will be
if I plug in 3, this makes 0. If I plug in 14, this makes 0. But I know my parabola's flipped. So one of these needs to be negative, right? So, I don't know, try a negative here maybe? That doesn't really work, does it?
Yeah, it has to be negative 3.
Now wait, if I put a negative here, is 3 still a 0?
No.
Because negative 3 minus, that wouldn't work, so I need to actually change this now that I've put a negative here.
But that's the word?
Well, we're trying to figure it out. We know the equation works, we don't know if this
I'll plug
works.
it in.
So, negative x squared, that'll work, right?
Yeah.
Positive 14x, because negative times
Plus 3x.
positive, okay, or 17x. 3 times 4,
Negative 42, that works.
that works.
Oh, yummy.
What?
Stop.
Everyone.
Stop yourself.
Excuse you.
Gaming.
He's gonna cut you off.
So we have 2 more minutes. Try to work something like this with orange, which we already played with a little bit, but its zeros are 10 and 16, right? So if I clear this out, and we look just at orange,
Hear music. Oh, that's Chris.
so if we start, we have x potentially minus 10, x minus 16. Hey guys, do you want me to keep allowing you to use Chromebooks during class? Show me you're responsible. So I can do a mastery right now on deriving the equation of a quadratic based off the zeros in the vertex. Can you do it? Then you should pay attention. Welcome to the real world. You have to be honest with yourself on what you can't do and not avoid it Like my friends that won't come to math counts. Not you guys. I'm talking about people that won't come to math counts because they avoid the stuff they think they can't do. Knock it off. I don't know why you're pulling up some keyboard app thing when I'm trying to challenge you with something you can't do.
Are you dissing me?
I'm dissing anybody who shies away from anything they can't do.
Okay.
What you can't do is a growth opportunity. Would I like you to come to math counts? Yeah, of course. Would I like you to play Go? Yeah, of course. Like, would I want you to challenge yourself? Always. This doesn't quite work, because that would give me an upright parabola. So the first thing I would need to change is make one of these negative. And then I got to make one positive, right?
So negative x squared plus minus 6x.
What?
That becomes positive. That's
Can I see
isn't it
the
plus
equation?
26?
Yeah.
Can I
What
see
did you
what
get?
the equation is so we can work
Oh
it
yeah, negative.
And then minus 160 again.
That's what we end up in the beginning.
Now, my y-intercept will be pretty low, because if I sketch this parabola, like, it's going down.
For real.
You're so dumb. So wait, Chris, did you say you determined Orange's
Yeah, I did.
parabola
What is it?
through guess check?
It's negative 3x squared plus 78x minus 480.
That's probably not the exact one.
It is.
I'm gonna do this right.
They could be
Oh,
similar.
if you hover over the
I'm gonna
points.
do this the same.
Oh.
Maybe if it's.
Now-
Oh, you simplified it.
How do we get from this not being right
Yeah, you could just.
to the accurate?
3.
Yeah.
Put in
But-
the negative 3x.
But how do we know to do that?
Because
That's
you're smart.
where we'll continue tomorrow. Actually, sorry, lies. Tomorrow you will be starting your Chapter 4 Mastery because there will be a guest teacher because I will be out at the WEC trying to rewrite an acceleration assessment.
What the
I
heck
will
are
be
you doing
back.
without us?
I'll be back around noonish, so if you need me, I will be here in the afternoon. I'll be back sometime around noon. Have a great day, guys. Keep fighting the struggle. It's a good thing.
Who took my pencil?
Chapter 4, yeah, the trig. Yeah, the trig chapter.
It's funny though, is I put it up here and I copied it.
Yeah, calculator work. Please leave the calculators. You're gonna want them tomorrow.